Rusty, my old friend. Right, here we are. I know you're probably thinking, my God, what's going on? I had a chat with Salim here, who's the technical producer, and we decided that we'd like to do some podcasts. Okay, so why, what, etc. So what I want to do is I want a little guinea pig with yourself.
Yeah.
So you can ask me a few questions, and then we'll just get into it. And then, touch wood, hopefully in a few weeks to come, people will be hearing me saying good morning, good afternoon, or whatever. And friends, colleagues, etc., welcome to the podcast, and that we're going to have a good lineup of guests. So that's the general concept. So firstly, what do you think of the setup here and the equipment?
The setup looks amazing, and I was very surprised. Like when I walked through the door, how professional it looked, and I think just listening to it now, the acoustics are unbelievable. So it's going to pick up everything we say.
It is indeed. So
or don't say
exactly, but don't have to worry now. We're not going to be politically correct on this at all. We want to be a little bit near the mark, but obviously we won't be insulting anybody. Now, the general premise is, and you it's the same as yourself. Like I think between us, we've been in this industry for at least 80 odd years.
Yep, at least.
Which is terrible. And the only thing we've both gained is bloody short-sightedness and having to use these poxy glasses.
Which we keep putting on and off, yeah.
But anyhow, so 80 odd years. Now, whenever you turn up at courses or conferences, you see all these people and you've got all the names and you see the magazines with the articles, but nobody really knows the people.
Yeah,
so
correct.
I thought to myself, right, Jonathan Ross, Graham Norton, I'm not trying to emulate them or anything, but if you look at the people they have on their shows,
yep.
Some are as boring as ditch water, some are awkward, but generally the blend is pretty good.
Yep.
And then you have to ask yourself, why are so many other people not on the programs? And it's probably because they're awkward, they're a pain in the butt, they've got nothing to say. So
or the green room isn't as good.
Oh, the green room isn't as good. Could well be. Well, you've had a cup of tea in this green room.
A couple of tea and a biscuits.
Yeah.
So the green room was good.
Yeah. And there'll be baked beans later on for you when we finish.
Can't wait.
But again, it's just to see if we can now do something and get people to know who's in the industry, what
yep.
they stand for, what mistakes they've learnt from. But most importantly, Russ, is we've spoken about this so many times over a beer, over a tea, whatever. How do you make the next generation of youngsters want to be in this industry and want them to be as patient as they need to be to get on in the industry? So that's one of the main reasons. So hopefully they can learn from the people that comes on. Now there's also a little session which I'll come to later, and I hope you will ask me a question that'll allow me to bring it out. But that's generally what we want to do. So is there anything you want to ask me as to, well, just so that we can have a little, a little rehearsal,
Well, I mean, the first burning question that I obviously came straight to the forefront as soon as I walked in here, and obviously listened to you with the concept was, why do you want to do it? What makes you want to do it?
Okay, right. So now there's so many old boys like us, all right, and I've watched them fall out of the industry or almost like falling off a cliff. And they do so with a lot of frustration because they've got so much experience that people either don't think they have or don't want to listen to them or don't want to give them a chance to pass on that experience. And I would just like to get to know people before they fall off that ledge or before they feel as if they're useless, and maybe have a chance for people to learn from them or to just listen to what types of leaders we've got in the industry. And to make people understand that it's a great industry if you just look at it from an interesting perspective. That's why I want to do it. Also want to have a bit of a laugh. I want to have a chat with people that I've enjoyed their company, I've enjoyed listening to, I've enjoyed learning from, and some I just want to see if they're as boring as I thought they were.
I mean, and it's a record for posterity as well, because so many things get lost and forgotten on the way that... especially when age comes upon you, you just tend to forget. And in our industry, people forget very, very quickly.
Too quickly. And especially, and that's another thing as well. People say, do you make friends in the industry? You make friends as long as you're in the industry.
Correct.
Very few people stay with you once you leave the industry.
Yep.
And also when things don't go as well as you'd like it to, you then know who your real friends are and who they're not.
Yep.
And that's also, it's a fact of life. And it's the way it's always going to be. And I've never met anybody who said that on their headstone their company is going to write, "Oh my God, what am I going to do without you?"
Yep.
So, but before that happens, it's just nice to get some old stories, a little bit of history, a little bit of fun, and some learning exercises for people who want to listen.
Yeah, and to be fair as well, is from your point of view, most probably, and my point of view, is to remember the people that have gone in the past and why, before we forget, exactly, and why they contributed, what their contribution was, and for some of them, why it wasn't held on to. That's the biggest thing.
I agree. It's incredible. Now, while we're talking about that, one person who made a big impact on me, and he actually got me into Lufthansa, was Kieran Taylor.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What a character.
Yeah, Kieran Taylor, and
his football and the tours and how he got so many people to... I mean, the amount of people that came into the business through football.
Yep.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's another thing that I want to actually ask people. How did you get into the business? Because I've never known anybody to tell me yet that they sat in school and said to the teacher, "I want to get into cargo," or "I want to work at an airport." I've never known that. So it's either through people you know, it's either through luck, or it's either through relatives. Exactly. It's a legacy business.
I mean, we lived in an area that the main industry in the area was at the airline industry, the airport industry, and the airline industry. And you knew if it wasn't in your own family, you knew hundreds of people that worked at the airport in different things, and the contacts and the the introductions that you got from that were unbelievable through the group of people that we just knew when we were growing up.
Exactly. And look at the opportunities we've had. 40 odd years, and look where we've been all around the world.
Yep.
And I can't remember who was telling me, but I'll definitely repeat the story. When we were playing for Felton, Roy Gadsby Gadsby was with us, and we were sitting in the what's the name of the pub in Bedford? Sawyer's Arms?
No, that's in Felton. Would have been the Bell or the...
No, it was the Sawyer's Arms because we finished playing for Felton.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So we were all in there, and I remember Steve Donworth, Kevin Gadsby was there, and Gary Brody.
Yeah.
What's the crazy Belfast lad? What's his name?
Oh,
Bobby
Dawson.
Bobby Dawson.
Yeah.
All those lads were in there, and we just won the game, so there was no game on the Saturday. And I remember we were sitting at the bar, and someone said, "Well, what are we going to do on Saturday?" And I said to you, "Let's go to Miami tomorrow." Do you remember?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And we were both married as well.
I know.
And they were all thinking Miami must be somewhere down near Brighton or whatever, because they couldn't imagine. And then Roy said, "I'm working early, so I'll come after shift." And we had no mobile phones.
No,
nothing. And we just arranged to meet in, I can't remember. Oh, yes, I can. The Bel Air. Collins Avenue.
That's right. Yeah,
and
we did.
We met in the bar.
We just met in the reception bit area. Yeah, we did. Yeah,
but I mean, so to do things like that from our background was incredible, wasn't it?
But I mean, even going back to the earlier days and that, you had, like with British Caledonian, you had training flights that they gave you. So because you were on a training flight, it meant that you could go out on that aircraft, and then you had to come back on the same service. So people were going over to Rio and spending like 3 hours on the beach over on the Copacabana, and then coming back on the same flight because it was a training flight. And they did that all over the world, and people couldn't believe that you were doing that.
And enjoing the in-service as well.
Enjoying it, of course, exactly.
Unfortunately, we're going to sound like a couple of old farts now, because it's the good old days, wasn't it?
Waldorf and Stadler, exactly.
That's the good old days, isn't it? No, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions?
Well, I mean, obviously, another burning question is that obviously on the inception of it is what sort of people and who are you going to ask to be on the podcast?
Good one. What we plan to do, and we've spoken about this at great lengths. We want to invite lots of high profile characters, because obviously that'll draw people to listen. But we also want to invite some hidden treasures. People that have really done well within the industry, that don't always get accolades, or aren't always giving speeches or on panels and stuff. And I also want to refer, if I can, to a little bit of I don't know what you'd call it, a little bit of the errors of our ways in the industry and some of the things that have been allowed to happen, and us coming to the end of our careers. It doesn't matter who we upset. So I also want to talk about, or at least get people to talk about dicks, pricks, twats and twits. because there's been so many people that have screwed up people's lives and made things so stupidly complicated or awkward or politically unbalanced. So hopefully we'll get a few stories out, but also to recognise people who've helped people, which is more important. People who've been mentors, coaches, trainers, just great examples, and hopefully get a little bit of a wall of fame up for people. So that's and just to let people know the person behind the position. And I'm pretty sure we'll find some common traits. Good leaders are normally people that have learnt from mistakes, and everybody has made mistakes. And then when you fall to a certain level. When you hit the bottom, great leaders are the ones who aim higher than where they fell from, and they learn from that as well. And they're also not afraid to admit it and pass on to other people. And I think that's the sort of people I hope to meet anyhow.
And is part of that to hopefully introduce some young people as well, and get some young people and get their ideas and reasons, one, possibly why they've come in the industry and what they've done, or ones that are possibly thinking of coming in the industry.
100%. One of the things that
why they don't want to come in the industry,
and try and convince them otherwise. One of the things that I'd really like to do is get people who are doing aviation courses or supply chain to listen in as well, so they can hear and listen to the types of people that are leading the industry at the moment, but also to get some young people who've got innovative ideas or support companies or set things up or made an investment and they want to get into the aviation industry, so people can see that there are youngsters coming in, good youngsters in place, and also the types of training that's necessary and the changes, Russ, because social media now is a killer. It's ridiculous. And people have got, they don't want to spend any time. Everything's in a hurry. They're always. I mean, I've seen people who cannot stop looking at this poxy phone. Then they get put under pressure because of selfies and what everybody else is doing, and as a result of that, they've got no patience. They want everything tomorrow or today, and tomorrow's too far away. And if they're not careful, they'll become. So they'll just be like reeds in the wind. They won't know which way to go and which way to stand up straight, and how long to stay with companies.
But there's got to be a happy medium between the fact of we have to realise now that the younger generation and anyone youngsters coming in, social media and any technology is part and parcel of their life when they're born these days. Literally when they're born. I mean, I think I told you the story the other day. Is that I was sitting next to a Chinese family, and the baby, they had a young boy and a baby, and I'm telling you, this baby couldn't even walk. That's how young the baby was. So 1.5 or whatever, couldn't really walk, but had a mobile phone and was using the mobile phone and scrolling up and scrolling across and pressing apps, and the baby couldn't hardly talk.
Probably hacking into his dad's phone.
Possibly, yeah.
No, but it's
worked
crazy.
for Huawei or whatever it was,
No, but it's crazy. But that also shows that, I mean, we're nowhere near as fast as our kids. And,
No.
Now, and we're never going to be. But if you can have, like you said, a happy medium and a balance.
You've got to embrace it, because if you don't embrace it, you become a dinosaur, like a lot of the people in our industry have become dinosaurs, and they're not happy or not able to change, and because they're not able to change, that's what causes a big problem.
No, I agree. And if we and this program and people that have had a good career out of this industry, if they can pass on gladly and happily and with a bit of fun their experience, and also a little bit of toughness, because people need a little bit of discipline and a bit like the old the sergeant majors in the old boot camp films, that everybody hates them to begin with, but if they do it with a good heart, they love them at the end.
It's care and compassion and all the rest of it. But people have just got to embrace it, but realise that things aren't going to be handed to them on a plate. Which is a lot of people do think that now, and you can't get everything applied. I mean, through the interview system that we've spoken about, for many years, particularly about on the cargo industry, where people just expect things on a plate. You get 500 people going for a job, and that 499 of them are just going to not even bother replying to something. Because they feel under pressure and it should be given to them on a plate. So it's like No, there's going to be a lot of challenges, but a lot of opportunities for people coming in.
I'm also gonna try and mix it up a little bit. So the first sort of sessions we're going to get are people that are willing to come on, willing to share a little bit of like a hook, something that'll interest people, so that they want to listen for that few 35, 40 minutes or whatever. But also that they care and they're passionate. So I want good people. Now I'm sure there'll be a few boring people. And it'll be a bit harsh, but at least the benefit is they can listen to themselves and put themselves to sleep, and then they'll know whether it was a good one or not. But there'll be a couple of stars, I'm pretty sure. And those stars will be people that were least expected.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we know through experience who a lot of the stars are going to be, and people that we expect to be good, will be good. It's the, like you say, it's the diamond in the rough that you're looking for, that you can always try and find, and
some enigmas. And but also what we're going to try and break it up a little bit. So we're going to try and ask them what interest they've got, what would their partner say should they change, and I'm hoping anyhow, because if Kathy's listening to this, she always tells me you shouldn't work so hard, you shouldn't put so many hours in, you've got to realise that you've got a family, and of course we do, but it's a balance, and if you're committed to something, sometimes you do put too much time in.
You do.
But you've got to make up for it when you can.
Yeah, it's about a happy balance. It's everything: work, life, family.
Yep.
Anything you go through, it's all about a happy balance
and having a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
If you don't have fun,
well,
and another thing, like I probably said to the kids too many times, the most valuable asset any human being has got is their time.
Yep.
You can't borrow it, can't box it, can't give it to someone. So and if you don't enjoy it. Yeah. And look at the places we've worked, and we've seen people that have to leave their families, don't even see their families for 2 or 3 years, and they're working in extreme conditions, and they're doing it for a purpose.
Yep.
And if everybody realised whatever you're doing with your time, it should be a purpose. So whether it's to save money, whether it's to enjoy your work because it gives you the chance to do things outside of your work, whether it's to be just happy in a position and do a good job, or whether it's because you want to rise up the ladder. It doesn't matter what your purpose is as long as you have one.
Yeah.
But the people who are so negative because they don't have a purpose or values, that's what I find such a waste. It's terrible.
That's the people that don't appreciate, with the experiences that we've had and the things that we've seen, people don't appreciate what goes on with some of these people and how they have to, in the industry, how they have to support their families, how they have to support their life, the things that they have to sacrifice just to get, to get by.
I remember we were in the Middle East together, and that day I'll never forget. You called me up and said, "Get your ass down here and see how hot it is," and it was over 50 degrees. And all we did was order ice creams and drinks, and got somebody to deliver them. And we personally went down and gave one to every single member of staff. That tiny little thing, how much satisfaction and fun and joy we had.
Well, they basically stood in a line and not applauded us, but I mean they stood in a line and just they gave us a sort of like a guard of honour, which was ridiculous for an ice cream.
But it was quite emotional, wasn't it?
It was emotional. Yeah, it was.
And for people to say nobody's ever done anything like that for us before, and it was just a bloody ice cream, and a drink of water.
Crazy.
But it was the time we spent with them.
Yeah, no, which is what they appreciate. That again, in this industry, half the battle is listening to what someone says. And if you listen to what someone says and you appreciate and you can genuinely affect it and do something about it, then you're much better in not only in yourself, but you're much better appreciated by everybody else as well. But
no, I agree.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm going to do is I was asked to do 60 seconds. And I enjoyed it, and one of the questions was a title of a book.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to do with everybody as well is during the course of the session, I want to come up with a title for a book that we'll use as thumb marks to access and stuff, and just come up with something creative. So I'm going to try and come up with one for you as well.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do that as a little.
All right.
And
I'll do one for you.
Indeed. And then I'm also going to ask, if I was to ask your partner, what is the song that makes you just want to get up and give it the old man dad dance?
Yeah.
What would it be? And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep a record of all the songs that get listed, so we can have our own playlist eventually.
Yeah.
We'll have our thumbnails or thumbprints or whatever you want to call it for the books.
Yeah.
Anybody that gets a positive mention as a mentor or whatever will go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And anybody that's termed, which probably it'll only come from people like me or you, but any dicks, pricks, twats or twits, we can put up on the wall of shame.
Yeah.
So and just have a bit of fun.
I just want to know there, but
So, Song, what would yours be?
well, no, I would just want to know is how do you get up? How do you get you up and everyone else to dance to Jim Reeves?
You're taking a piss now.
It's the sound of distant drums hasn't really got that sort of movement where you can get up and do a dad dance to it.
It has for me, mate. I tell you, it's about the best rhythm I've got. No. Mine would be Barry White. You're the first, the last, my everything.
And mine will most probably be Club Tropicana by Wham. Club
Tropicana.
But do you remember the video? If you ever
on a boat, wasn't it?
If you ever go back to the video, they worked for the airline, so they were both airline pilots, and the girls were stewardesses.
Oh, it's getting better now.
So the two boys went they got off their aircraft and then they went to the crew hotel, and that was in the video, and dressed as like two old cargo, because in the initial days when we first started, we all had to wear uniforms and we all had to have braiding and we all had to have
and the hats. We looked like pilots,
and we had to have a hat. So that reminded me of me and you, always that record of when they like turned up as the crew and they went to that hotel and then they were in Club Tropicana with the crew. So if you ever watch that video back again, because you haven't seen it for a while, just look at that and you'll think, oh my God, now I remember like what it was, and that's what.
I'll watch that. You just reminded me of something. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the pub now. There's a pub just underneath the bridge in Staines. Old pub.
Oh yeah.
Right, years ago, 4 or 5 of us went down there from Lufthansa for a lunch. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a designated driver, so everybody out there, if anybody's drinking, make sure you got a designated driver. And the rest of us were slamming them down. And one of them grabbed his cap at the time and he said, right, lads, come on, we've got a couple of flights to sort out when we get back. That's all he said. But some people in the bar
thought he was a pilot.
And somebody phoned the Lufthansa switchboard and said, some of your pilots have been drinking in Staines and they're going to attempt to fly some aircraft back.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why then BA... you couldn't go down a pub at lunchtime in your uniform.
Yeah.
So everyone had to take their uniform off before they went down a pub.
Yeah. Not a bad.
No. But that was obviously one of the reasons why. Yeah. So I mean, getting back to something, your initial questions, and obviously a couple I've put to you already is, but I mean, what do you expect to get from the whole exercise at the end of the day?
Right, Russ. All that's expected is that people realise there's a different communication medium out there, and in our industry we have conferences and an old colleague who's not in the industry now, but it's a waste of his talent, Dave Ambridge.
Yeah, good old
and
Dave.
He used to preach sometimes, but he talked a lot of sense, and he always used to say, why are we talking about the same old things and we don't seem to get things done?
Every conference.
Yeah. Now, this isn't going to change things, and I'm not expecting it to be, but I'm hoping that people will start to see a different type of communication. So instead of people getting up on stage all the time and trying to sell their company or sell what it is, this should be more about bringing people into the industry and making people appreciate what a great industry it is. So if we can do that and have a bit of fun and let people learn a little bit more about their leaders and their managers and their senior people, then it ain't going to be a bad thing. And plus to give people the chance to say something that they've never been heard speaking about before.
But it to me, it seems as though you got a chance here to put down a little bit of honesty of the fact of the industry, and we know it, has never ever been what they class as a sexy industry. So it's never been able to attract the sort of people that everybody thinks of the airline. They want to go over to check-in. They want to go and work with what's called the core parts of the airline industry or the core parts of the cargo industry, whereas we've never been sexy. And people have tried over the years to try and change that, but it's not. So they've got to work pretty. Don't say you're the sexy side of it.
We were sexy a few years back, mate. It ain't that long.
But it's all a part. It's part of that promoting the good things and not dwelling on the bad things that so many people do in the industry, which is crazy.
Yeah, always moaning and groaning.
Always moaning and
But
groaning.
also understanding that, I mean, this word now, disruptor.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually love it. And I don't think it's a negative word, but it's got negative connotations.
Yeah.
But I think I was a disruptor before disruptors became popular or positive. And I just think if you feel that something's not right, you should have the balls to stand up and say something. And it shouldn't be seen as negative.
No.
And then if you do say something and your managers or senior people see you as a bit of a challenge or as a bit of a... They should have more confidence.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? I love it when young... It don't matter whether they're young or old. I love it when somebody says, do you know something? I think there's a better way of doing it. Or I think we should try this. Or I think whatever. As long as they're positive and have a solution...
That's what I was just about to say.
Then
positive,
I think they should be listened to.
Positive criticism. I mean, everybody gets criticism. Everyone should be able to take criticism, but it's a way that you do it, and it's a positive way, or even the way that you can accept it. Because a lot of people can't accept it.
Nah.
Even if it positive or negative, they can't accept any criticism whatsoever.
No.
It's like my way or the highway, and then you think, and that's right. And that shuts everybody down because then nobody wants to speak about anything.
Yeah, no, that's wrong. Any senior party who does that, that's wrong. Or anyone who's not straight up. So if you say something, you should say something stronger to the person's face than you would ever say in their absence.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Now you mentioned honesty.
Yeah.
Now because of governance and because of PLCs and shareholders and senior managers and all this rubbish.
Yeah.
I don't think people will be that forthright and open.
Right.
But I do feel that gradually the wedge will start to make them want to have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the people who come across as entertaining, genuine, fun-loving, good leaders will be the ones that will be requested, to come on more panels and to voice their opinions a lot more in the future. That's what I'm hoping, because the politics that happens in companies now is sometimes so destructive.
But that's the fear of the young people nowadays, and some of the cultures that have been introduced in especially in the airline industry, is that people do not say anything because they're in fear now of their positions.
Yep.
And the fact is when we first started, airlines used to be a job for life.
Yep.
When you joined an airline, you said, that's it, it's a job. I've got a job for life, like your father was, or like your father's father was, or whatever your uncle was. It was a job for life. You could start there, but nowadays it's not like that. It's a 2-year turnaround, and people want to move, and there's other opportunities they've got. So it's all about how people not something saying promote themselves, but how people communicate with each other.
Yep.
And it's all about that communication. And no, so it's the old cliche, communication is king, but you have to know and have the ability to be able to communicate with the person above you, but also more important, the person below you as well.
Yeah. But it's fear.
It is fear. It's fear.
And like, I love acronyms, and the acronym for fear is for everyone anything rules, or for everything anything rules. And I just think too many people also use it as a barrier and a shield. So whether it's age, whether it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of humour, it's colour, it's religion, it doesn't matter. It's people.
Yeah.
And if people are always going to be working together, they have to get on together.
Yeah.
So it's like a team. And if you introduce a team spirit and a bit of team fun and banter, people should be happy to do that.
I mean, one of the prime examples of what's changing at the moment, like with respect of like important information being passed down to people, particularly when it comes to legislation or anything that's regulative, is you look at the I mean, it's old now, but the British Airways video that they put on when you're sitting on the aircraft.
Oh,
now.
I love it, Joanna. But
that is a perfect example of now how they realise that by putting a bit of fun into something, it gets people's attention and it's retained in them, because people talk about it and they said, oh, did you see that video? Did you see that British Airways one about, doing your seatbelt up, about putting your tray up or whatever?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers it. So instead of having to be that strict, Dickensian sort of attitude on how you introduce information to people, things like that, particularly when it comes to training, people remember far, far more.
No, I agree. Have you seen the Air New Zealand one?
No, I haven't.
That's similar. They've got the Air New Zealand
Is
rugby
it?
team doing
Oh,
it.
is it? Have they?
So
Yeah.
good, so good.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb. Yeah, but I agree with you. And that's another thing that we're going to cover is we're going to cover training technique.
Yep.
So stop having everybody in classrooms where they don't want to be. They're always itching to answer the phone. They want to keep getting up and going out. Their attention levels are too low now.
Yep.
So you've got to adapt to that. So that's something that we're going to be talking about. Safety and security, key issues.
Yep.
And too many people are complacent.
Yep.
And they don't think that it's their responsibility. So we've got to make everybody accountable for safety and security.
But again, it's a way that it's introduced and trained to people, and how it's communicated to people, the importance of it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when it's all just saying, like, there's a 12-page like document there, you've got to read that, that's so important, and people, you know...
They don't read it and they'll
You've
just
gone.
sign for it.
You've
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Completely.
And also teaching people why it's important.
Exactly.
Why it's important. So remember, there's another character, Andy Clemson.
Yes, yeah. Andy
Bigfoot.
training. Yeah.
Bigfoot.
Size 11s.
Bigfoot, yeah. But he's right. You know, he's right about coaching and
But it is,
and
yeah.
how important it is to coach and do things right.
And it's also introducing a bit of fun into what he does with his training, and people can even add more fun to that by adding a few little supplements to his training to his training equipment.
Like the Lego brick. If we get this off the air and anybody listens, right? This guy, he's a great trainer. He's so passionate about what he does, isn't he?
Yeah.
And we ended up staying in the same place, and he had his training tools, didn't he? Which basically is this sort of corporate games of different sets of Legos.
2 boxes of Legos, and it's to building teamwork and communication.
And it is good, and
understanding.
it's effective, and it's good fun, and everybody knows Lego bricks.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell them what you did.
So basically, we got into his Lego bricks, and we made strips of like paper, and we just wrote down things like, "We love you, Andy. Andy, you're the best trainer in the whole wide world. Why are you so handsome doing your training?" All little notes like that, and we tucked them in and put them all in his pieces of Lego, and then mixed them back with his Lego, and then just left them for him and just forgot about it. And because 2 or 3 months later, he was doing a training course up in the Midlands somewhere, and because he was using his training equipment and then all this training, and the next thing, the evening, we get a violent telephone call from him, like in the evening, like, and who's been tampering with his Lego. Oh dear, it was a classic.
No, it's good. And I remember, God, blimey, you think back now to the days in our old days in the sheds and the warehouse, and the tricks people played on people. Yeah. I remember there was one particular guy, Steve Montgomery, lovely lad, absolutely lovely fella. And I remember he was doing a stand-in supervisor's role, and he got a little bit carried away with the position, and we thought, right, now we've got to teach him a lesson. So we grabbed him and we taped him to a wheelie chair. Yeah, we taped him completely so he couldn't move. And we put him in the lift. Do you know the old lifts that you had no control over? And we just put him in there to surprise him. And I remember looking at his face when somebody on the bottom in the warehouse pressed the button and the lift started going down. And instead of helping him, they dragged him, brought him out of the warehouse and just slung him across the warehouse. I mean, imagine doing that these days.
Nah, you wouldn't, nah. I mean, health and safety, some of the things that he used to do were absolutely ridiculous. We used to have a British Caledonian. We used to have what was called a day book. So the day book was initially because this was before the days of technology with iPads and handovers. It was basically a handover book. So you had a handover book that was for the next shift coming on. So anything important or anything that needed to be handed over, or anything that wasn't finished, was put in this day book. And then you handed it over to the next shift, and then they completed it, and then it was handed over and kept being handed over and handed over. And these courses went for year on year. But these day books ended up with it became a comic book instead of a handover. So there was pictures of people put in there. There were comments. There were like funny things that were put in there. Unbelievable. Anyway, we thought these books were lost. But one of the old lads had actually managed to take all these books. So he's got about 12 of these day books, and he's kept them as an archive. So what we'll do is one day I'll bring them, and then you can have a look at them, because Lufthansa are mentioned in there as well, because obviously we were in the 2 warehouses next door. But unbelievably funny stories, and obviously things that you would never get away with now. But
I'd love to see that.
So funny.
And you just reminded me again. I can't remember the lad's name now. He's a great cartoonist, and he in Lufthansa,
yes.
and he did his own like magazine come comic. And he used to do it. He used to do a Christmas edition, and everybody used to anticipate and wait for it, hoping that they were mentioned in it, but in a positive way, and wondering which were the ones who.
He ended up working for WFS, I think, in the warehouse. That's something to do with forklift training or forklift.
Did he?
Yeah, forklift equipment. And if you remember, when we went back there with Etihad, and we were going to meet the management. Management, there was a card that was left you, and he did it when he drew a camel.
Did he?
And a cartoon of you on top of the camel, like for your when you were leaving to go to Abu Dhabi.
Oh God, I'd love to.
And I can't remember what his name was, but yeah, he was in WFS. Yeah,
no, I'll have to ask Phil now to see if he can get copies of those.
Funny.
They were funny.
Yeah, and I'll bring one. You can have a look at them.
And I remember, unfortunately, I appeared in it.
Several times.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I think we all did. Yeah, we all did.
No, that was good. That was good old times.
Yeah, they were.
Some of the characters as well that used to be there.
Well, they're all there. I mean, I've got a list that we compiled many years ago of all the nicknames, because everybody at the airport, to do with airline, cargo, to do with the agencies, to do with customs, anybody at that airport had a nickname. So all these people had some people obviously weren't called their nickname to their face, but they were written down. Yeah. So anyone referred to them as their nickname. And we went through the whole of the staff from A to Z with everyone that we could remember, and 70% of them, it was just the nicknames, because we couldn't remember their real names. So it was just all the nicknames and who they were. But very funny, yeah.
Good old times.
Yeah.
Good old times, yeah.
So I mean, getting back to your the whole concept is how do you think it's going to be received by everyone? When it's eventually produced and put out.
Well, I think people will be interested. I think the ones who come on will be quite nervous, because at the end of the day, if you get involved in just a general conversation, you let things slip, or maybe you relax a little bit. You say things. I think some people will panic a little bit. But I think hopefully there'll be some real characters coming out, and they'll say the right things about why youngsters should come in, what a good business it is, and make people feel that there is the passion in this industry.
Yeah.
And we've got to keep it going, because something that's happening now with e-commerce.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's got an idea what to do with the damn thing.
No.
And because it's just affecting everybody, it's like a waterfall that splashes everyone, because everybody's wet. They think they're swimming.
We know how massive it is. How massive people...
And how big it's going to be.
Yeah.
And also the other businesses that are kicking off as a result of it, with the returns and storage and distribution. It's incredible.
Yeah, but we also know as well that people still find that there's a massive investment opportunity because of the other industries that are trying to get into cargo.
Yep.
They're trying to get into the actual network chain.
Yeah.
Of people that you would never ever think of that had anything to do with cargo.
And becoming forwarders as such.
Yeah. Like we've spoken about the Uber concept.
Exactly. Uber Freight now.
I know. I mean, that is amazing to think that they think that there's an opportunity there, because
to do it differently.
Because if they didn't, they certainly wouldn't invest in it. So it's like it's amazing how people still find. It's not like reinventing the wheel, but they find additional things and different niches that they think, my God, there's an opportunity there. There's an investment in cargo to be able to do something and to make money.
Yeah. No, I agree. And also, hopefully, things like that will make people be less complacent and start focusing on innovation, new ideas, speed, simplicity. Hopefully, most people will talk about simplicity.
Yeah.
And if they try and make... I mean, you look at all the manuals we got. Good Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the... I genuinely, in all the years, and being a GHA as well, and being responsible, I genuinely feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Because carriers want this done, that done, bit of this, ABC, 1, 2, 3, then it goes ZX. It's all over the place. How can you expect people to understand what to do for which carrier, and especially now when the training is being cut back because people are so worried that they won't retain the staff, so they don't want to invest in them.
Yeah,
it's an ever decreasing or ever diminishing cycle, And so those are the things, Russ. So just to let people talk about things instead of saying what they want to say in a magazine, because it's
the right thing to say.
The right thing to say. Yeah. And hopefully some people will slip up. Some people will think it will be a little bit embarrassing, but I think genuinely people are people, and they like people with character and a little bit of depth and interest.
Yeah.
They don't want cardboard copies of. I mean, it's like the footballers of today. There's not many characters in it anymore. No. So unless you got like Liverpool and Tottenham games, you know, which were unique, and then you have a terrible final. Yeah, I know. But by the way, which team did you support in the final?
Spurs.
Unlucky, eh? Terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, but what a great season. So it doesn't really matter. And we've got a new stadium to look forward to. So
where did you end up in the season?
I think we were 4th in the end.
4th? That's good.
Yeah, no, still in the Champions League next year.
Yeah.
That's good. And then, like I say, new stadium, new players.
Taking part rather than winners.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
I want to see how many genuine winners are out there. People who want to win with a passion.
Yeah.
Not just to participate.
As opposed to someone who always says to you, like your teachers at school,
it's just the taking part that matters.
Which we know is rubbish. Yeah.
Rubbish.
Exactly rubbish.
Who wants a runners-up medal?
No. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
So now, then I will try and get people to let me know what's on their bucket list.
Yeah.
So who knows, you know? So we'll do a little bit of that just to see what types of things people genuinely would like to do, and how nice bump into someone in a hotel or at a conference. Says, I listened to the podcast and I didn't realise you were into Formula One or whatever. So am I, and then it just kicks off a different level of appreciation of each other.
Yeah. Well, and also it's common ground. I mean, because also you can say, okay, we got the big thing we've got in common is cargo.
Yep.
But to have other things in common outside of that you never knew about people makes communication.
Yeah.
Much better.
Salim's always talking about communication and marketing.
Yeah.
And what he keeps saying to me is, you look at a magazine, it's got limited lifespan or shelf life.
Yeah.
It's once you read it and then you leave it on a. Whereas this type of media, it's going to link everybody's. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on people's LinkedIn. It's going to be on their Facebook. There'll be social media references going back and forth. Anybody from a company can put out to all their staff and say, "Look, guys, if you didn't know me, you'll know me better by listening to this."
Yeah, 100%.
Who knows? So,
it's like the thing is I've heard of the name, but I've never met a person or don't know. Or like I've speak to that person on the phone like X amount of times, but I never know who they are, what they look at, what they look like, what their personality is. Yeah, I think you'll find. I think when you start to invite people on it, how possible different their personalities are going to be than
from
how
their persona.
And how you perceive them to be.
Yeah, I agree. And wouldn't it be nice if somebody went for an interview and the interview panel said, "Russell Williams, why have you come for a job with this company?" And for somebody to say, "Do you know something? I listened to Mr. X or Mrs. Y on a podcast,
and I thought I'd love
to work for him or her."
Or her, yeah.
And that's the other big thing, Russ. We want to try and get as many ladies in the industry as possible to come on. Yeah. And one classic example is all the ladies in Donata in the UK. My God, they're all in.
I know.
And aren't they good?
Yeah, I know.
You know, and some of the ladies.
And that goes back to the Alex days and the introduction, which and
some of the ladies I've come across have been absolutely, they've been incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And a pleasure to work with. And also, dare I say, a better sense of humour than most of the bloody fellas who are so concerned with what people think of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's basically...
It's their understanding of the of the male psyche, though, that also I think helps with their empathy, sympathy, calm understanding, all those things there that, again, harping back to the older days, is that a lot of people didn't understand that at all. Didn't understand how to talk to people, didn't understand how to communicate with people. Some still don't.
Yeah.
But that is, now for introduction now, like all these massive corporate companies now, what they have to introduce and what they have to be aware of people's feelings when they're in an industry, and then how it all revolves around how they're feeling with their work, as opposed to, and that didn't happen.
No, right, yeah. I mean, I think it's good to know and to be aware, but some of these companies, and especially...
What you mean, go overboard?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
HR departments,
Yeah.
procurement departments, financial departments. So many tails trying to wag the dog.
Yeah.
Support services should be support services and not try and do all this wishy-washy.
But I think again, that's you're. I think you're looking at it as old school, because whether you like it or not, that is the change in the industries and the workplace and people who we deal with now. So you have to take that on board as part and parcel.
Another acronym. Consider how anything new generates efficiency. Change.
Yeah.
If it doesn't generate efficiency and people are doing it just for the sake of doing it, Russ, and
Yeah.
you've seen people.
No,
where
I know,
some
but
HR guys come in and say, "Oh no, you've got to learn this," and then there's no work being done. And at the end of the day, feelings are important.
Yeah.
And I'm not known for my softness and cuddliness, but feelings are important. Of course they are, because you respect other people. But sometimes people have got to understand. You're there to do a job, and if the job's
100%.
not done, you're not doing what you should be doing. So you've got to be told.
That's why we said right at the beginning, one of these conversations, it's a happy medium and a happy balance between everything. But I think you have to appreciate that part and parcel of that is massively HR now. And you ain't going to get away with that, and you're not going to get around it, and you have to embrace it, and you have to use it to your advantage. Yeah. And that's when a good... To me, in my mind, that's when a good manager, a good supervisor, a good team leader, that's when they come into their own, when they can understand a little bit of everything and then they use it to their advantage.
Yeah. No, you just hit on something there as well about levels of within the job. What we also want to do as part of a second series is bring local heroes in.
Yeah.
So people that have been recommended by their leaders, and bring them in and listen to how they perceive the way the business is going and what should be changed, etc. So to get a different dimension. And also to cover 5 or 6 specific topics, so safety, security, training and development, succession, risk, contingency, continuity, e-commerce, and maybe dangerous goods or something, So really to get some expert series going, and then some people series going, and then just let everything keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and hopefully people will enjoy listening and seeing what the common denominators are of success, of experience, of how to do things, never give up. And always, doesn't matter what door gets closed, you still have to go through many doors in life. But if you go through them and don't look what's on the other side, you're wasting all those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the pertinent things is as well, is to always ask these, particularly the youngsters, and I've found that sort of over the recent years, is that ask them what is important to them. Ask them what is important in the industry. What do you think is wrong with it? What do you think is right with it? Yeah. What is important? Why do you think it doesn't attract people? Yeah. Why do you think it does attract people? Yeah. What areas are? What areas aren't? Yeah. Because people don't seem to give them enough voice or listen enough, and then act on what they're saying.
Fully agree. And that is another byproduct of this, because one of the things I want to do with a couple of people is create a training exercise. So people only need to attend once a month. It's not an academic session, but it's teaching people how to get on in the business and what senior management look for in youngsters and people for succession, and how to make, because you never get a second chance at a first impression, how to make that first impression and maintain the first impression without having to go overboard or trying to be something that you're not. Yeah.
Or feel intimidated by who you're talking to or who you're communicating, because far too many young people that I've found they feel intimidated. You may, like we spoke about, you may get the diamond in the rough, and they stand out so much that you think, oh my God, what is this person? And that's attractive. But that's one in 200 people, and it's all about that. Not being intimidated and be able to communicate.
And that's it. Teaching people to do that and take advantage of it.
And that's not just in cargo. That's everywhere as well. That's in all walks of all walks of young people's lives. It's just how to communicate and not be intimidated, and how to
and also customer experience. So we're going to try and focus on that. And I've spoken to so many people who've been involved in like losing bags or damage to bag, and people need to realise that's somebody's life. It ain't just a bag.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean? It could be a wedding dress. It could be gifts at Christmas. It could be some important project work. Yeah. And if people understand the why, then they realise what they should be doing and how.
Well, we know that through the industry on just just on look at UTLs or missing cargo or whatever.
Yep.
That again,
Yep.
it's the appreciation of what is the end product and what's the end of the line, how that's affecting people. You know?
And no matter how much automation, IT platforms, the one common denominator that every manager's got to deal with is people.
Yeah.
Is people. Listen, let me ask you something. How long do you think we've been talking? Just off the top of your head.
20 minutes.
20 minutes. 58 minutes.
Is it? Blimey.
58 minutes.
That
so
does fly by, doesn't it?
So one of the other objectives is once people get used to the camera, once people get used to this, is let them just relax and get going.
Yeah.
So, time's up.
Time's up.
So who knows whether this will work or not. My title for your book,
go on,
is Hearts and Minds, Water and Ice Cream, Wham.
And my title for your book is What Advice Would I Give My Young Self If I Could Go Back in Time?
Cool, blimey. That's a question as well as the title.
Both. But it's a question that the title leads to the question, yeah.
Holy Mother of Moses, there's a lot of things I wouldn't do, and there's a lot of things I would redo, and there's an awful lot of things I would want to do. And the biggest thing is time ain't there anymore.
No.
So anybody who wastes their time now, by God, they don't want to be in the same position to be asked that question.
And what I find now is it's very difficult to try and make even your family, even your young people in your family, understand that you were that age once and you've been through that and you can give a little bit of advice. Whether you take it on board or not is up to you, but you can give that bit, and it's trying to make them understand and listen to your advice.
Do you know, you're right, and I still tell them now. Growing up on holiday and stuff, and with the family in Ireland, we had no electricity. No, but I'm serious. We had oil lamps, and we had no heating, and we had to go to the well for water, and we had excuse my language, we had a crap stick.
Yeah.
And they said, what's a crap stick? I said, outside toilet, and you used to have to whack it across the sticks and the trees to get the rats to run away so you could have a poo in private.
Yeah.
They don't believe it. No. Going to church with my granddad in a pony and trap.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, even
first television,
outside toilets now, which to be fair, my mum and dad still had an outside toilet, although it wasn't a toilet anymore, but it still had water to it. It's outside toilets. Yeah. You never had an indoor toilet.
But first television, first telephone.
Yep. There was an article yesterday, because it's the anniversary of the landing on the moons, I think, isn't it?
Is it?
Was it either yesterday or today or something? I saw something on the news about it, and they were saying, do you remember where you were when the first landing on the moon happened? Which was, no. And I couldn't, but there was hundreds of people that did, and they sent in their pictures, when they were, how old they were.
No, I'll tell you the first real thing that I remember where
I don't think we had a telly, so that's why I don't think I remember.
We didn't have a telly then. But I think the first thing I actually ever remember where I was I remember Kennedy getting assassinated, but only because of my mum and dad's reaction. Yeah, because I don't remember where I was.
But everyone put up a picture in their house. Yeah, that's why.
But I don't remember where I was, but I do remember where I was when Elvis Presley died.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, but I like Elvis.
Yeah,
you're into more of the old boom, 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 boom stuff.
As opposed to Jim Reeves.
Yeah. No, listen.
Good. Yeah.
Great. So thanks for being a guinea pig.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if it works, I'll get you included as well.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Who knows? And the best of luck, and because the concept is, I think, is going to be really good, and hopefully you'll get some really good people on there who really open up and start to promote the industry or promote the business to try and attract some of these young people, because again, one of the things that we've always said is that, and I've done over the last couple of years, is I've always said to people, I just want to give a little bit back, that's all, because people say it's a bad industry, but it's given me and you and a lot of other people a good life. And if they could get a little bit out of that, they would realise that,
and give something back. And also to have a vehicle where people have got the opportunity to show that they care still, even when they're walking away, because it's, at the end of the day, 40 odd years in an industry.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Who knows, mate? Maybe we get an OBE or something.
And that's an acronym for?
No, do you know I haven't done
You have
one.
never done an acronym for OBE.
What will I do with that? That's another one. Now let me just think. Only.
We'll think of one, mate.
Yeah.
We'll think of one, and then you can introduce it. Say, "Oh, someone gave me an OBE the other day," and then you'll have an answer to them.
Yeah. Only big egos. But Russ, listen, it's lovely. And, and it's great knowing you for all that time. Really appreciate it. And the one thing that happened with this is whatever happens, nobody's going to lose a magazine. This will always be there.
This will always be there somewhere in the
cloud.
the
kids, and then they will refer to us as the two old boys on the. What was the name of that program?
The Muppets.
The Muppets.
Stadler and Waldo. Yeah. Stadler and Waldorf, or I can't remember what his name was. Something like that. Yeah.
That's good. So touch wood, fingers crossed. Hopefully this will work. And thanks very much.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks.
Bye.